Hallelujah.
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 Giving praise and honor to Jehovah God, the King of the universe, and thanking him for our lives and the opportunity to call upon his name on this day as we are able to approach before him. So we thank him for all that he does for us, for he alone is the King of the universe. Amen. You may be seated at this time. So once again, we do thank Jehovah God for all that he has blessed us with, and blessing us once again with this opportunity that he has given us in order that we may approach him in service and in honor unto him. For it is our responsibility to acknowledge the King of the universe. So at this time, once again, just giving praise unto him for all that he has done for us, because without him, there would be no us. And he's the one that provides us with our food, our shelter, as well as our clothing. Everything that we receive, as it was just said, we have to give honor
Torah
unto the Most High for all that he has done for us.
Amen.
For as we are going into the Holy Scriptures today, and basically what we will be doing, and once again, just just be prepared as we will be going through these portions, and questions will be asked and answered, and just what they call crowd participation, along the way. What we will be also doing is a synopsis, so to speak, catching up from Badmibar as well as today's portion, which was read, which is Naso. So we won't be reading, of course, through all 7 chapters directly, but just go just an overview and a synopsis, catching us up to the point that we are reading today. Once again, just grateful to the Most High for the safe travels for everyone for last week.
Amen.
And the presence of the Most High allowing everything to work out well overall, and just being able to see the children of Yisrael still in existence, knowing who the King of the universe is.
Right.
Because whether people came from near or from far, it's just showing the handiwork of the Most High in this time, that he has not left us completely astray. We have gone astray from the way that we are supposed to be walking before him, but he has not left us. So he has left many of us on this earth, of the children of Israel, that has the ability to acknowledge him, that has the opportunity to keep the Sabbath day holy, that has the opportunity to acknowledge that we are the children of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He has not left us to ourselves completely, even though, once again, we have turned our back on him numerous times throughout the generations. And he has left his word for us in the Holy Scriptures for us to read in. So we acknowledge, once again, that Jehovah is the King of the universe. Jehovah is the God that created the heavens and the earth. So when we come before him on this day, and come before him individually day by day, we acknowledge that this book that we read here, the Holy Scriptures, which is known to many as the Old Testament of the Bible, that we only acknowledge the God that it says in the beginning created the heavens and the earth.
Right.
And then we read throughout the book of Genesis. That's the first book of, quote unquote, once again, the Bible, the Old Testament, the Holy Scriptures, the book of Genesis. And within it, we received the information that Jehovah God created the heavens and the earth, and everything that was done within the first 6 days, and how Jehovah God created everything within those 6 days of creation. And then getting into the second chapter of Genesis, where we read about the Sabbath day, where Jehovah God did nothing at all but bless the day. So this day is a holy day.
Right.
So every 7th day when it comes in, we acknowledge is the Sabbath day, or pronounced as Shabbat in Hebrew, which is a day that we cease from all of our work. Because once again, in the beginning, Jehovah God ceased from all work, and there's no amount of work that we can do in 6 days that compares to anything that Jehovah God did in creating the heavens and the earth.
Right.
So if he stopped in 7 days, then obviously we can stop on the 7th day as well. Because once again, we're not going to compare to the amount of work that he's able to do.
Right.
And he stopped.
That's right.
So when we continue reading on in the book of Genesis, we see the generations of mankind upon the face of the earth. Then we get to our father Abraham. And Abraham came on the scene as, Kara's once said in the song. And then you had Abraham or Abraham, you had Isaac, and then you had Jacob. Jacob being Abraham's grandson, and Jacob's name was changed to Israel.
Right.
And then Jacob is Israel, had 12 sons. And out of those 12 sons, each one of them became the progenitor of a tribe on their own. So that's how you get the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Yisrael. And then when we get to the book of Exodus, we find that the children of Yisrael are in Egypt, and then the slavery and the oppression came into effect from the Pharaoh at that time. And then throughout just how we find ourselves today in the various countries, find ourselves oppressed, find ourselves enslaved. We can talk about the many things that happened to us then, and think about the many things that happen to us today. Think about the atrocities that happen to us today, and just imagine the amount of atrocities that will happen. We just read, basically an overview of that in the book of Exodus, with them just saying, with the writing just saying that Pharaoh commanded his people to throw the babies, the male children of the children of Israel in the river. That's just a small thing, but that's just a form of genocide, and there was many things happening during that time, and once again, we could compare that even till today, and the genocide that has happened amongst us today. Once again, as it was spoken about the many shootings that take place, but think about the things that happen to us directly. Think about the uprisings that happen, and because it got to a point where, or it should have happened a long time ago, but we've gotten to the point where we could no longer take it anymore, and the entire world is also seeing what is happening to us, and that oppression of how we are being shot down by ourselves and also shot down by police. Once again, just more recently, a pregnant woman got shot by the police, and then they just handcuffed and let her bleed out. Right. So once again, we see the oppressions and the things that happen to us, and that's what we read about also in conjunction with the book of Exodus. And then Jehovah God saw the afflictions of the children of Israel during that time, and he saved us. And once again, just referring back to the name of Jehovah God, because wherever you see the word or the two words, the Lord, in your English reading, that is where the name of the God that created the heavens and the earth exists in the Hebrew language of the Holy Scriptures. And once again, that his name is Jehovah as we pronounce it here. And once again, you may hear that name pronounced as Yahweh as well. And that name appears, once again, 6,500 times within the Holy Scriptures. And with a name being pronounced that many times in the Holy Scriptures, that means that there is none else beside him. So therefore, we don't compare him to anyone else. So Jehovah God brought us out of that slavery, out of that oppression, and out of that captivity from Egypt. Also, the land is also known as Mitzrayim in Hebrew. And delivered us that he may give us and fulfill the promise that he gave to Abraham, our father. And that promise was fulfilled in Jehovah God bringing us out of that captivity, out of Egypt. So in the process of time, we find ourselves in the desert or find ourselves in the wilderness. We journeyed from Egypt all the way to Mount Sinai, and there we received the 10 commandments of God, as well as many other commandments, statutes, and judgments that Jehovah God pronounced that the children of Israel should be keeping. Also in the desert, we received, or we were told, to build a tent of meeting. Right. The tabernacle, a place of worship, a place where we can gather before the Most High. And also, as it says in Exodus chapter 25, Jehovah God desires to dwell among the children of Israel. So even in a place where we did not have a home yet, even traveling throughout the desert, even on a journey, Jehovah God had it that we would have a place set up where we may worship him. Right. So we were never left without a place to worship the Most High. So even once again, coming right out of the land of Egypt, coming out of that slavery, that oppression, that depression, and all of the negative words that we could talk about our existence there, Jehovah God, when he brought us out, the first thing he told us to do after teaching us the commandments, statutes, and judgments was to establish a place of worship where he may dwell among us. And that's why worship is so important for us today. That wherever we find ourselves throughout the world, we cannot separate ourselves from a place of worship that is in connection with the God that created the heavens and the earth. Once again, that was an important thing that Jehovah God placed within our existence in the desert at Mount Sinai. And now, as we read about, once again, the commandments, statutes, and judgments that were given unto us, and then we are going to be journeying or reading about our journey in the book of Numbers. So that's where we, just bringing up the tent of meeting is where everything comes into play, because once again, the tent of meeting was the place that was erected by the children of Israel by the instructions of Jehovah God, and it was built according to the specifications that Jehovah God, made. It wasn't something that the children of Israel, we didn't think of that on our own, and we didn't construct it with our own architecture in our mind. Once again, that plan, that design, that engineering, that architecture came from Jehovah God directly, and we just constructed it. And once again, it was based according to the specifications that he laid out, with the boards and with the tents, with the curtains and everything that was there to set it up, and also to be taken down so that it can be transported throughout the desert as we left from Mount Sinai on our way to the land of Egypt. So now we get to the book of Numbers, where we are in as it says here, you can start reading in Numbers chapter 1, verse 1.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month, in the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male by their polls. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, ye shall number them by their hosts, even thou and Aharon. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of his father's house. And these are the names of the men that shall stand with you.
So we're going to start right there. So now we read, the book is called Numbers in the English because the people that named the book that saw a bunch of numbers as this book started.
Right.
But the name of the book is called Badmibar, which means in the wilderness or in the desert, because that's where we were dwelling at this time. And the book here starts once again in the first day of the 2nd year after we came out of the first day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year after we came out of the land of Egypt. And it's talking about the numbering of the children of Yisrael, all the males for 20 years old and upward. So now, if thinking about, as we go forward in the book of Numbers, why is it that this number, it's not a definitive answer, but why is it that it took until the first day, in your opinion, on the first day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year after we came out of the land of Egypt, that now the children of Israel are being numbered at this point? And this, once again, there's not going to be necessarily a definitive answer, but just an opinion. Why are the children of Israel being numbered in the first day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year after coming out of the land of Egypt, as opposed to any other time possibly before this? Why? And also for those that are online, the question may be asked before you even get to read it. But why were the children of, and once again, in your opinion, why were the children of Israel numbered? Why was it, I asked the question today, why was it until the first day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year of us coming out of Egypt were the children of Israel numbered at this time, as opposed to before this time? Because we came out in the 15th day of the 1st month, and the first month being the month of Abib. So now this is a year and half a month later. It's those who made it out. Okay. But that's later. That's actually later. Yeah, because we didn't leave Mount Sinai yet. And that's possibly part of the answer, but we didn't leave Mount Sinai at this point yet where everybody's being numbered. Yeah.
Did we have our first Passover in the desert?
Yeah, we had our first Passover in the desert. So with God, once again, that's reading forward, which we won't read today, but we had our first Passover in the desert. We had our first overall Passover in Egypt, and then we had our first Passover in the desert on the 14th day of the 1st month. So God allowed all of that to take place first, because once also again we had the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So all of that took place first, and now we are in the 2nd month of that 2nd year, and now after all of that has taken place, now we are being numbered, and now we're going to begin our journey. But in order to proceed with our journey, there was a reason why the children of Israel needed to be numbered, and why do the children of Israel, the males 20 years and older, need to be numbered? Organization, yes. And
how many men we have for war?
how many men we have for war. And also bringing up the offerings. All of these are good answers.
What about dwelling in certain places?
Dwelling in certain places,
Their own
territory. And add to that answer a little bit more. Okay, where is it important that those numbers be established to know where everybody's dwelling?
Throughout the temple?
Go a little further into the future. Breaking up the land. So you need to know each tribe is going to get a section of land based on the numbers of people, because the land is not just evenly distributed. It's based on the number of people for each tribe. So now, and also the assumption is, of course, we know God knows the future.
Right.
The assumption is this generation was going into the land.
Right.
Unbeknownst to us, this generation is not going to go into the land. But us not going into the land is our fault. Just like we could think of it today, us still being in captivity in 2022 is possibly our fault. when the books get written about what happened here, there might be a couple of events that caused the children of Israel to stay in America and in England and all these places where we could have been in the land probably in any other year beforehand. So all of the people were numbered based on the tribe, so that way we could know, once again, it organized the children of Israel. We didn't come out without having any organization or any type of structure. And that also teaches us how we should conduct ourselves today. We know that we wake up, the Most High God wakes us up into this understanding from various parts in our life, various ages and various occupations that we may have, but once we come together, we have to learn to become an organized people. And as it says here, there was a prince, there was a head of every tribe, there was one head of his father's house. So there was a prince of each tribe. Were these princes named princes, and once again, this could be an opinion in your answer, but we'll get to. Was these princes named in the desert, as opposed to possibly being named before? Okay. Were these princes that we're not going to read their names, but there was a prince for each tribe. Were they princes before this chapter, or were they always princes before? They were always princes before. So even in our state in Egypt, even under captivity, we still had a level of organization.
Absolutely.
We still had a level of leadership from top down. We still had people with positions. You had a head of a tribe, which is hierarchy, which is the prince of the tribe. That within the tribes you had princes within those tribes. Now, once you think about what took place in the East, when you think about tribal situations in Africa and also in Asia, what is one of the main responsibilities or the main reasons why tribes would have a prince or a head over them? To establish order. And along with that, to establish judgment. If you don't want to establish judgment, then you won't have any leadership. One of the main purposes of establishing leadership is to establish judgment, because establishing judgment keeps everybody that's under that hierarchy in line. So it was the responsibility of the head of a tribe to establish law and order with the people underneath them. And that was based on the family designation. So once again, these 12 men were mentioned, and that's why, and also because they're the heads of the tribes, they are the ones that would be helpful and very helpful to Moses and Aaron as they are numbering the people, as it says here, because they should know who the people are. Moses is in charge of the entire nation, but each prince is in charge of their own tribe. So Moses would be able to go to each tribal head to be able to get an exact count of how many people. So within this chapter, we read all of the numbers of the people that were numbered, and once again, each head of a tribe, and start from verse 17, if still chapter 1. Actually, go up one verse, 16.
These were the elect of the congregation, the princes of the tribes of their fathers. They were the heads of the thousands of Yisrael. And Moshe and Aharon took these men that are pointed out by name, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. As Jehovah commanded Moshe, so did he number them in the wilderness of Sinai.
So once again, before we journeyed, once again, this is the first day of the second month and the second year after you came out. Everybody had a pedigree. Everybody knew who they were. That's something that's very important. Everybody knew who they were. Everybody knew what tribe they were from, because it was very important for us to know that back then, because once again, going into the land, we would be able to separate the land boundaries by the tribes. So it's very, today we don't have the benefit of knowing which tribe we are from. But we have the benefit of us knowing that we are the children of Yisrael, which is very important. We have the benefit of knowing who God is and relying on God to let us know what tribe we are from when Jehovah God brings us out of these lands into the land of Yisrael. And in the event that some of us are not the children of Yisrael, they're not part of any tribe, should that actually matter? Because once again, once you know who God is, and as we read in the book of Ezekiel, God has a place for everybody. See, the purpose of the children of Israel is to be a kingdom of priests to teach the word of God to the other nations. So it's the responsibility of all nations to know the word of God anyway.
Right.
So we should take pride, yes, in knowing who we are, being the children of Yisrael. But if it happens that it's not so, God is still God. And the glory is always going to go to him. So now there were 12 tribes that were numbered, but out of the 12 tribes that were numbered, or the 12 sons of Jacob that became tribes were numbered, there was one that was not numbered. Which tribe was that?
Levi.
And there was the Levi. Everybody knows the answers for that one.
Teach us.
So how was it that there were still 12 tribes numbered, but yet Levi is not counted?
Yosef.
Because Joseph was divided into two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. And was there anything wrong with that?
No.
Because he got the firstborn portion. And the firstborn gets a double portion, as we know in the Lord as given to us by God, gets a double portion of their father's inheritance.
Right.
So Joseph, who was the son of Jacob, accounted as two tribes. And it was able to go to him because Reuben messed up. We know how Reuben messed up, right? He slept with his father's wife. Simeon and Levi messed up by killing a bunch of people. Judah,
it was a little bit more than that.
Simeon and Levi messed up by becoming angry and killing a bunch of people. So it went from Reuben to Simeon to Levi. Judah messed up by just going from his father, and he redeemed himself later on, but he went and did a bunch of things, and then so he got. We don't know what Don naturally God and Asher did.
Right.
However, we know that Joseph was bringing back an evil report of them to his father. Because it said that Joseph was bringing an evil report of the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, which were those four, to their father. We don't know what Yisrael or Zebulun did. It's not written, but somehow the birthright skipped them as well, and it ended up in the hands of Joseph. And that's how Joseph got the double portion. So we still got a count of 12, even though Levi is taken out. And why is Levi taken out?
God is their possession.
He said, because
God is their possession.
they get the portion from the people. Well, their portion is God's.
That's right.
Right, their portion. That, and why were they given that? Why were they? Why was it that they were just separated and just? They had their own inheritance, but why were they given their own inheritance?
We stood on the side of the Most High.
Hezekiah, in an attempt to big up his tribe, went into a portion a few weeks ago that was not even part of what he was reading, to explain why that took place anyway.
Teach us.
But it took place at Mount Sinai, where we still are in the matter of the molten calf and how the tribe of Levi stood up, and they were consecrated unto God. So they are not numbered amongst them. So therefore, they're not numbered amongst the rest of the children of Israel, because they are not going to receive a portion of land among the children of Israel. They're going to receive cities throughout the territory of Israel, but they're not going to receive a straight portion of land. So they were not numbered amongst the children of Israel, but yet they were numbered themselves. And go to verse 48, because it's going to talk about the Levites here. In the chapters, in the verses prior to that, it just gives the numbers of the children of Israel overall, and which was 600,000, 600,000. No, 3,000 is the way. 603,550. And it says, but the Levites after the tribe of their fathers were not numbered among them. And then we're going to see here how the Levites were numbered here.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, verse 48, howbeit the tribe of Levi thou shalt not number, neither shalt thou take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But appoint thou the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, and over all the furniture thereof, and over all that belongeth to it. They shall bear the tabernacle and all the furniture thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. And when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And the common man that draweth nigh shall be put to death. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man with his own camp, and every man with his own standard according to their host. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of the testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. Thus did the children of Israel according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did they.
So the Levites were separate from everybody else. They're going to receive their own count, as we're going to go through later on in these chapters that are coming up. But their responsibility was to transport the tabernacle through the desert. Their responsibilities is to protect the holy things of Jehovah God in relation to the children of Israel. So they had a responsibility that, and notice how just everything just happens to work out. That you have a tribe that is now separate from everybody else, and they already have a responsibility of setting up the tent of meeting and taking it down, and transporting it. God sees well into the future.
Right.
And he already knew that these things were going to happen. So it just happens as, it's in our lives. Things just happen. As we read here, the situation with the molten calf, the Levites were separate, and now you have a tribe that is able to do these things. You have a tribe that is not numbered with everybody else, but still the land is still separated amongst 12 tribes. God saw well into the future and allowed everything to happen. So now this tribe is numbered, and now we're going to go into chapter 2 and talk about that just briefly, because chapter 2 is going to talk about how all of the tribes are situated around the tent of meeting. Because once again, the tent of meeting was set up on the first day of the first month in the second year after us coming out of Egypt. So now, once again, we're reading here a month after the tabernacle was set up. That entire first month, there was a lot happening. Think about it. The tabernacle was set up. 2 of Aaron's sons died. We still had to keep Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, prepare ourselves to go on a journey. And we're going to read other things that happened in the first month. There's a lot of things that just happened in 1 month. Once again, there was no time to just be slack. Continue.
Chapter 2, verse 1.
Yeah.
And Jehovah spoke unto Moshe and unto Aharon, saying, The children of Israel shall pitch by their fathers' houses, every man with his own standard according to the ensigns. A good way off shall they pitch round about the tent of meeting.
So once again, we see here, and we're going to skip past the rest of a lot of things in this chapter, but this chapter is talking about how the tribes were situated around the tent of meeting. There were 12 tribes, so there were 12 encampments. And within each encampment, there was 12 tribes, 4 encampments. And within each 4 encampments, there were 3 tribes.
Right.
So once again, it just worked out. Jacob just happened to have 12 sons.
Right.
And now you just have 4 sections around the tent of meeting. Everything just happened. And the Levites were taken away of that count, but Joseph happened to fill the slot with his 2 sons. So now you have 4 encampments, 3 tribes within each encampment. So you had tribes that dwelt to the east side of the tabernacle. And once again, as it was Marak El just mentioned, we're reading about a lot of hierarchy and a lot of organization. We didn't just leave from Sinai, everybody just pick up and start walking. God is telling us how to walk and how to go forth in our stages. And based on who your father was in terms of your tribal designation, that's how you travel. So when that horn, we're going to read about that next week, but when those horns go off to let us know how to journey, you had to wait for a certain horn to be blasted to know what your tribe is going to be moving. The horn and the blast, and everybody just pick up. There was organization. God taught us how to be organized just in our walking. And as it was said earlier, we knew definitely how to walk a day. Many people had to be in shape to take that journey, whether by day or by night. And then those that couldn't make the journey because of illness, because of age, or when there were still carriages or carts, because we had animals to pull carts and everything like that along the way. So there were 4 encampments. On the east side, you had the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Issachar, as well as the tribe of Zebulun. And they would journey first, but they were dwelling on the east side of the tent of meeting. So when the tent of meeting is being taken down, they had to be ready because they were journeying first. Then on the south side, as we read here, you had the tribes of Reuben, you had the tribe of Simeon, and you had the tribe of Gad. Right. That was on the south side of the tabernacle. On the west side, you had the encampment of Ephraim, which included Ephraim, Manasseh, and Binyamin. Right. And on the north side, you had the encampment of Dan, and that included the tribes of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, and they journeyed last. So the tribe that was actually on the top of or dwelling on the top of the tabernacle were the ones that were actually journeying last. So when you look at it, like if you look at it from top down, you would see like a sort of a circular motion of the people moving out. Because the eastern camp would move first, the southern would move up behind the eastern ones, the ones on the west would just come, well, in between you had the tent of meeting, of course. Then you had the western side following the tent of meeting. Then you had the tribe of Dan, which was on the north, but they end up flowing, probably because you're looking this way, going this way. And that's how it was a journey. So once again, it was a strict order of organization, just even traveling throughout the desert. And Jehovah God set all of that up, and that's how the tribes were set up. And then we get to chapter 3. Because in chapter 2, once again, it just tells us how everybody was situated, and it was talking about how everybody would journey. It repeated the numbers of each of the tribes. Then it also gives the number of each encampment, because each encampment with the 3 tribes, you had a total number of people within that. So it gave, and the number, of course, equal the same as it did in the first chapter. Then we get to chapters 3 and 4, which is going to speak specifically about the Levites and their duties and their numbers. Continue.
Now these are the generations of Aharon and Moshe in the day that Yahweh spoke with Moshe in Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aharon: Nadab, the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. These are the names of the sons of Aharon, the priests that were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's office. And Nadab and Abihu died before Yahweh when they offered strange fire before Yahweh in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. And Eleazar and Itamar ministered in the priest's office in the presence of Aharon, their father.
Continue.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Bring the tribe of Levi near, and set them before Aharon the priest, that they may minister unto him. And they shall keep his charge in the charge of the whole congregation before the tent of meeting to do the service of the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the furniture of the tent of meeting, and the charge of the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. And thou shalt give the Levites unto Aharon and to his sons. They are wholly given unto him from the children of Israel. And thou shalt appoint Aharon and his sons that they may keep their priesthood. And the common man that draweth near shall be put to death.
And this is the second time, other times in here, but it's the second time that we actually read where somebody would be put to death by doing a function that did not belong to them. Just imagine that picking up something that you were not supposed to pick up could cost you your life. Picking up a curtain that did not belong to you, that was not your job to pick up, cost you your life. Everybody was given their function. The priests were given their function. The Levites overall were given their function. And any stranger, as it says in some of the translations, which is anybody besides the Levites, that did a function of the Levites, will be put to death for touching or even trying to carry anything that they didn't have to carry. So even anybody wanted to be helpful to a Levite, they might have been friends with a Levite, and the Levite, was carrying a board, and you had a friend, of the tribe of God, and said that, just take a load off for a minute because I know your journey, you might be tired. You can't do it because that's not your job. That's something that we have to learn today, that when you have a job, you do your job.
Do your job.
And let somebody else do their job.
That's it.
But once the job overall gets done, that's what's important. But there has to be organization and structure and a hierarchy, a lot of good words that were thrown out today, in how jobs get done. And that's how we learn to function as a community. That's how congregations such as this learn to function, where everybody has a job that they do. And as a nation overall, we know how to function because everybody does their job. And overall, we know that we have leadership because when you have a bunch of people, there's going to be problems. People are going to do wrong, and that's just the way of life. But you have to have people in place that are going to judge those that do wrong. And that's, once again, the responsibility of the princes here that we read about, because when people do wrong within their community, their tribe, they're the ones that are responsible to make sure that those things get done. And also amongst the Levites, they had people that weren't in charge. We're going to skip over a lot of these things, but you had the two sons left of Aharon, Eleazar and Itamar, and they were put over the families of the Levites. So you had the Levite tribe, that within that tribe you had families. How many families were there of the Levites?
3.
There were 3.
I was trying to let everybody else answer it.
And you could just read ahead. You see there's Kohat, Gershon, and Merari. The other tribes, of course, had families, because once again, you had the son of Jacob became the head of a tribe, and then the sons of that tribal head became the families of that tribe.
Right.
So Lewi, who was the son of Joseph, Lewi becomes the tribe. Then Lewi Lewi, the son of Jacob, is a tribe. Then Lewi had 3 sons, and each one of those sons became the head of a family.
Right.
And of course, that was generations before now, but those family names remained intact. It's just like today, we have last names. And our last names are based on some sort of family or some sort of, in the case of us, some sort of ownership by somebody else. So it just depends on your last name, whether it's a family that could be traced before you,
right,
or some sort of plantation that you came from. But once again, that's how we get last names. So we had families. And once again, so you had the Levites that had 3 families, and each of those families had a responsibility in terms of erecting the tent of meeting and taking it down and transporting it. And each family had their own responsibility, and the families themselves could not intermingle and do the other family's work. So this chapter is talking about that, as well as the Levites being in place of all of the firstborn of the children of Israel. Because once again, all of the firstborn males of the children of Israel had to be redeemed, because all the firstborn males of the children of Israel belong to God? And why do all the firstborn males of the children of Israel belong to God?
There you go.
Because he started the...
Slaughtered.
Oh, slaughtered the first one. Yes. I knew the answer was correct. I heard something else besides slaughter. But I knew some way to read the answer was correct. Because God slaughtered all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, and God said that all of the firstborn males of the children of Israel had to be redeemed because God doesn't just kill people because he feels like it. Man and beast. So all of the firstborn males of the children of Israel and the beasts of the children of Israel have to be redeemed. And the process of redemption for the males, the human beings, was the Levites.
Right.
And for the beasts, because it said here in the chapter that the beasts of the Levites also replaced the firstborn. And that's what happened at that time. But later on, there was money that had to be paid out by people in order to redeem their children. And also the firstborn of the animals had to be offered. And so chapter 3 talks about the 3 families of the Levites, their responsibilities, it numbers them. And it also gave that they counted the firstborn of the children of Israel overall. There was a Levite that had to take the place of one of those firstborn. And there was extra, because there was more firstborn of the children of Israel as opposed to the kind of Levites. And those people that didn't get a count based on the Levites had to pay a redemption of the 5 shekels. And that was also the process that took place generations afterwards. Chapter 4 also continues talking about the encampment of the Levites and their responsibility, how Kohath had to carry what articles or what items because once again, all of the families are carrying some sort of item, but what was the responsibility of the Kohathites? And just to speed up, because based on time, they carried the Ark of the Covenant.
The most holy thing.
They carried the most holy thing. They carried the 2 altars, the menorah, the table of the showbread. So their responsibility was to carry those things. The Gershonites carried the lighter items, such as the tapestries, the curtains, and things like that. And the Merarites, or the Merari family, had to carry the heavier items, which is the boards and all the posts. And once again, chapter 3 into 4 goes into that. Also talks about their encampment. So Moses, Aaron, and their immediate families dwelt on the east side of the tent of meeting when it was set up. You had the Kohathite family, which dwelt on the south side of the tent of meeting. So once again, you had an encampment of Levites directly around the tent of meeting. Then you had the other tribes around the Levite camp. So you had 2 sections, the Israelites, the Levites, then the tent of meeting directly in the middle. Moses and Aaron dwelt on the east side. The Kohathite family dwelt on the south side. The Gershonite family dwelt on the west side. And the Merari family would have dwelt on the north side, just to make sure that that's correct. But they dwelt, and they had to dwell. So now you had families dwelling, separate families of Levite dwelling in different portions around the tent of meeting. Yet when it was time to take the tent of meeting down, they had to know how to converge and be organized to come together, even though they were not dwelling together. There were boards and stuff that were holding up the curtains, but each family, once again, dwelt separately and had to know how to converge in order to do this in an organized manner and not cross-contaminate their work. And that's what chapter 4 is talking about. So and it gives the numbers of everybody. So now we're already well into today's portion. Naso, now we're going to go into chapter 5.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper, and everyone that hath an issue, and whosoever is unclean by the dead. Both male and female shall ye put out without the camp, shall ye put them, that they defile not their camp in the midst whereof I dwell. And the children of Israel did so, and the children of Israel did so, and put them out without the camp, as Jehovah spoke unto Moshe, so did the children of Israel.
So even before we journeyed, and while we were in our encampment, God told us that you should put out every leper, everyone that has an issue, everyone that's unclean by the dead, had to be put out of the camp. What do those uncleannesses have in common? Contagious.
There you go.
Right. They can pass to somebody else. So there are other uncleannesses you can eat if you accidentally, hopefully it's accidentally, eat an unclean animal. You become unclean. You do not be put outside of the camp because you did that, because that uncleanness is not contagious, is not passable. the flow of seed could come out of a man. It's not something that's contagious. That uncleanness that he has is not passing to somebody else, so he's not put outside of the camp. So it's every uncleanness that can be passed to somebody else, those individuals, male and female, were separate from the camp. This is not, and it says because God dwells among the children of Yisrael. This is not a separation from the tent of meeting or the separation from a quote unquote congregation, a house of worship. This is separation from the camps of Yisrael, because God dwells among all of us. So any type of uncleanness that an individual may have that they could pass to somebody else, they would separate themselves. That's where the term nida comes from. I know that today we use the word nida in terms of a woman that is on menstruation, but the word nida itself just means separate. So male or female has to be separate when they have an uncleanness that they can pass on to somebody else. So once again, we may use the term incorrectly today to refer only to women, but nida is for male and female. Tameh is unclean. So when a woman is unclean, then she would use the word tameh. She's unclean. But when you use the word nida, it's not linguistically proper to say that you're nida standing in front of somebody else. Because you can't say I'm nida, I'm separate, but you're still in contact with people that you could say I'm separate. So once you think about the word nida being separate, you wouldn't be around, you could call somebody on the phone to say you're separate, but you wouldn't be around people to say, I'm separate. Nida, once again, means that you're separate from the congregation. So any type of uncleanness that you can pass to somebody else, God says you separate those people from the camp. And the children of Yisrael did so. I saw a hand go up in the back.
Regarding, you said
Tameh.
Tameh, is for a woman.
No, Tameh is unclean.
Unclean.
For male and female.
Male
Right,
and female.
right.
So when a woman is on her period
Mhm.
and she's separate
Right,
herself,
right, separate herself.
that will be called what?
Nida.
Nida.
Right.
And
But a man could also be nida in terms of if he has any of these things here, that he would also be nida because he would have to separate himself as well.
Right, so in regards to being that a woman cannot pass her nida on to someone else.
Actually, she can pass
You
her
can
uncleanness.
transfer her tameh.
Right.
Right, so now what I'm saying?
They're helping each other ask the question right there. So just be, okay.
Because if she can't pass on her.
If she's
And it's on her uncleanness.
if she's menstruating,
Right.
she can pass it. She can pass it on. She can pass it on.
Yeah, if she sits on anything.
Right. If she touches somebody.
anything.
So that's why those individuals that we read here would be separate from the camp, because they have an uncleanness that they can pass to somebody else. So they would separate themselves from the camp overall because they have an uncleanness that they could pass to somebody else.
You are unclean.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I know these are some of the things that we do not practice today because and it's not complete. Let me not say it that way. We could do better. I'll put it like that. We could do better, but we don't practice a lot of these things because the way that we dwell, because we live in a world where, you go to work with people that are unclean, that pass stuff to you, and we just inadvertently deal with each other the same way. That's what happens. Yes.
And regarding to the woman being on her period to separate herself,
Right.
that's from everything or just from the Holy Congregation?
From everybody. Like when we read here in chapter 5, they would separate themselves from everybody. Now, there were other chapters that would talk about if somebody's unclean, that they would separate themselves from holy things. But as we read here, God is saying, separate yourself from the camp. So it's not just a tent of meeting at this point. You're separating yourself because God said he dwells amongst the camps of Yisrael. So you would separate yourself from the camp on any day of the week. It would not even get to the point where they could get to the tent of meeting because they would already be separate, period. So the thought of them coming in contact with any of the holy items wouldn't come to play because they would already be separate from everything else. So once again, it's difficult for us to practice sort of things because we ride trains, we ride cabs, we do certain things. So a lot of things that we do inadvertently amongst each other because we already do a lot of things inadvertently in the world. But if we were living in a communal society, and many Israelites around the world actually do practice this, where people are unclean, male and female, and they have a separate place outside of the community where those people can dwell together. And one of the things that come to mind are like the Beta Israel, sect. They have camps just for women that are unclean, that they would dwell together during that time period. And they're able to do so because they already live in a community unto themselves, so they can have a separate community. They're not dealing with just all of the world overall. They already have a community unto themselves, so they can have a separate place where people that are unclean can dwell until they're clean and they can return back into the camp once again. And nobody's lacking in that community because everybody operates as a community. So if a wife or if a daughter is outside of the community for a period of time, there are still people in the community that can sort of fulfill those roles of the certain tasks that would take place because everybody living as a community and not by themselves. Those are one of the things that we have today where it's forced upon us because we learned or we are taught to just think about ourselves. We have our own apartments, we have our own house. Don't bother me, call before you get here. But if you think about the South, if you think about the islands, people were not calling before they got to your house. People just show up. But we live in a time today where everybody wants so much privacy. And that's part of our problem, because we want so much privacy. If you show up at my doorstep, it's a problem. But once again, think about a few generations before, like, Imam Muna, people probably walked to a house in Panama, just knocked on the door. Because also, things that we did, it's just common life. You got up in the morning, you said your prayers, or you got up in the morning, you showered, took care of yourself, said your prayers, and you dressed for the day. You may not have left the house at all, but you're dressed for the entire day. Because anybody could come to your house. So you're not walking around the house in your T-shirt and ripped up this, because anybody could come to your house at any time. That's communal living.
Teacher.
Going beyond what we read here, but just some of the things that we deal with as a community, that's what happens. So, of course, you have a door to close, but anybody could come to your house at any time. But once again, this is talking about the separation of people that are unclean because they could pass these things on to somebody else. These things, once again, are what we read in Leviticus chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15. Mm-hmm. The exception of the man that had the flow of seed come out of him is in chapter 15, but that's not passable. And of course, we read about the uncleanness of an unclean animal in Leviticus chapter 11. Continue. Actually, this next section is talking about if you, quote unquote, steal from somebody, you basically have to pay it back. And there's an offering that goes along with that. And there's also a payback plus the fifth part of something that you stole. So once again, it's not just when you steal from somebody, it's not just an even thing. You have to pay back more because that's going to make you feel it more. That's going to also deter other people from stealing. Mm-hmm. And if the person happens to not be alive when you decide to come to your census to pay back, you still have to pay back. Find somebody that's next in line, their children, to pay them back. Find a near of kin to pay them back. You are not absolved from any crimes at all just because somebody passes away. You have to fulfill your obligation for that judgment always. Then chapter 5 ends off talking about the spirit of jealousy. Very important. Start reading from verse 11. We're not going to make it through that entire chapter in complete because we still got 6 or 7 to talk about. But we're going to just briefly talk about the spirit of jealousy here.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man's wife go aside and act unfaithfully against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, she being defiled secretly, and there be no witness against her, neither be taken in the act, neither she be taken in the act, and the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled, or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled, then shall a man bring his wife unto the priest, and shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is a meal offering of jealousy, a meal offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yahweh. And the priest shall take holy water in the earthen vessel, and of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle the priest shall take, and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before Yahweh, and let the hair of the woman's head go loose, and put the meal offering of memorial in her hands, which is the meal offering of jealousy. And the priest shall have in his hands the water of bitterness that causeth the curse. And the priest shall cause her to swear, and shall say unto the woman, If no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness, being under thy husband, be thou free from this word of bitterness that causeth the curse.
Just stop right there, because every time Chief Mekobadi reads that verse, his inflection of his voice always changes. We're going to get right back to that, explain why, but go ahead. We're going to stop where she says, Amen, Amen.
But if thou hast gone aside, being under thy husband, and if thou be defiled, and some man have lain with thee besides thy husband, then the priest shall cause the woman to swear with the oath of cursing, and the priest shall say unto the woman, Yahweh make thee a curse and an oath among thy people, when Yahweh doth make thy thigh to fall away, and thy belly to swell. And this water that causes the curse shall go into thy bowels, and make thy belly to swell, and thy thigh to fall away. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen.
So there's a procedure that is being done here that we read about, that if a man is jealous over his wife for any situation that she may do something or say something, and the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, but it says earlier, the spirit of jealousy comes upon him and she has gone aside, the spirit of jealousy comes upon him and she has not gone aside. So just because the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man doesn't mean that she's automatically guilty of whatever he's thinking about at the time. So now there's a procedure that is being done here. It's not something that is simple where he just goes up, asks the priest a question, the priest answers with the Urim and the Turim. There's a whole procedure that has to be put into place here. So now the man has to think about this entire procedure that he's going to put his wife through because of his jealousy. She also has an opportunity to think about if she has done something wrong, the fact that she's going through this entire procedure, thinking that this is not going to work. So there's a lot of things that come into play here. And that verse 19, where once again the inflections of Chief Mekobadi's voice comes into play, because these are the things that are said. And the priest shall cause her to swear, and shall say unto the woman, if no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness, being under thy husband, be thou free from this water of bitterness that causes the curse. And why does the inflections of Chief Mekobadi's voices change when he reads that?
Because it's two separate things.
It's two separate things being mentioned there. Her charge of adultery that would cause the curse is not just her physically laying with another man.
Teach us.
There are other things that she can do that would cause this curse to come upon her besides physically or literally laying with another man. There are certain actions that she could do with another man. There are certain today's society pictures that she may send to another man. There are certain verbal communication that she can have with another man that would cause this type of uncleanness to come upon her, and this curse would come upon her, even though she didn't literally lay with another man. So that's why he reads it, because he reads the end, because once again, the curse, and she pronounces this curse. So she has to be mindful of the things that she has done. So she may say in her mind, I did not lay with this man, but there were other things. So these other things are what caused this curse to come upon her. Her belly would swell, her thigh would fall, and as a result of that, she would die. Go to the last, just read the last verse of this chapter. Because the chapter just talks about what happened. She's going to drink it, and if she's clear, nothing's going to happen. They'll have to be a quote-unquote a happy family. She'll have children. If she's not clear, the belly swells, the thigh falls, she dies. Last verse.
And the man shall be clear from iniquity, and that woman shall bear her iniquity.
So he's clear from iniquity only if she's guilty. If she's not guilty, he has to bear the iniquity of having that jealousy come upon him and putting his wife through the entire procedure. So this is not an annual ritual that a man should think he should go up with. Because if she's clear, he's going to bear that iniquity.
Right.
One person is going to be wrong. No, one person's wrong, the other's right. That's basically what it is. So once that takes place, once again, this is not something that, men talk about, if I was in the land, and we'd be going through this every month because I just want to make sure that you're clear. No. It's not a continual ritual that you do, that you put your wife through, because you're going to bear more iniquity upon you the more that she's clear.
That's right.
People don't focus on that last verse.
Talk about it.
If she's clear, you are wrong, and you're going to bear some iniquity. And that's fair. That's fair as it says. Chapter 6 is, because I know we started late, but we're going to see if we could do chapter 6 and 7 in 5 minutes. And chapter 6 is going to talk about the Nazirite. We're going to read just a little bit. No, we won't read the Nazirite. No, yes, actually, let's read the beginning of the chapter.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When either a man or woman shall clearly utter a vow, the vow of a Nazirite, to consecrate himself unto Yahweh, he shall abstain from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar of strong drink. Neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat fresh grapes or dried. All the days of his Naziriteship shall he eat nothing that is made of the grapevine, from the pressed grapes even unto the grape stone. All the days of his vow or Naziriteship there shall no razor come upon his head, until the days be fulfilled in which he consecrated himself unto Yahuwah. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow long. All the days that he consecrated himself unto Yahuwah, he shall not come near to a dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father, or for his mother, for his brother, or for his sister when they die, because his consecration unto Yah is upon his head.
So we're going to stop right there. So this is an oath that an individual, male or female, can make. Because a lot of people think that only males could be Nazirites, but women could become a Nazirite as well.
Right.
So they would make this vow that they would consecrate themselves unto Jehovah for a certain period of time. And this, once again, this is something male or female could make. So as they make this pronouncement, God also gives the specifications of the oath. Because once again, even with everything that we do, there's hierarchy, there's organization, there's still structure. So once again, a person makes a vow to become a Nazirite, and their duties are already delineated. That they're not going to drink anything that comes from the vine, the grapevine, so to speak.
Right.
What if they ate, if you go by the English, and just once again, opinion question, actually not an opinion question. Can a Nazirite eat watermelons?
Is that from the grapevine?
Yeah, that's why. Yes, that's what the question was asked. But you said, and you said, you said yeah, and you said no, and you say no, and you say.
I say yes. It says grapevine or gravestone.
It's grapevine. It's a great. The translation should say grapevine.
Yeah.
A lot of English translations say vine, and but it's literally a grapevine.
Yeah.
If it was to just say vine straight up, then yeah. What else? What else grows from a vine? I believe tomatoes. They're connected, are they?
I'm from the city.
So, country girl says yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What else grows from a vine? Pumpkins. Ask Amos what else grows from a vine. That was asked for a reason. But cantaloupe? Oh. That's it? Okay.
So it's a
Yeah, I would
vine.
discuss that, but they all the same family, she says.
Okay.
She agreed. But speaking specifically about the grapevine. So the Nazirite is not allowed to eat or drink anything that comes from the grapevine, so no grape juice, no wine, no grapes themselves, and what other things? Because it mentioned dry or what? Grapes, and what else? What else? What else? Specifically from the
It says strong drink.
strong drink. But what else? What else do people eat today? What is a dry grape today? Raisin. So Nazirite can't snack on some raisins. So no raisin jam or any raisin preserves, anything like that as well. No grape preserve, no any of that stuff that comes from the grape. So the Nazirite has to be careful of the oath that they are making. That's, not from the grapevines. They had to be careful because there's a lot of products that come from grapes that the Nazirite would not be able to consume. And they're not able to consume these things throughout their oath of the Nazirite. They're also not allowed to cut their hair at all. It's not about, because children of Israel were not allowed to shave or round the corners of our heads or shave off our beards in any way. But the Nazirite is not allowed to touch his hair or her hair, period. So that's why the concept of locks came into play, and especially amongst the Rastafarians, because they, in some sense, consider themselves Nazirites or consecrated to God, so they let the locks of their hair grow. So that's where the concept of just growing locks comes in, because of the Nazirite who is not allowed to cut his hair his or her hair in any way. They're not allowed to come near a dead body of anybody.
Right.
Almost, or like the process of a high priest. And it says if somebody dies near them, there's a procedure, of course, with the waters that they spring on the 3rd and 7th day. On the 8th day, there's a procedure for them, extra for the Nazirite to become clean because they broke their oath, even though inadvertently. And those days that they had before are now void. They might have made a vow for 370 days of being a Nazirite. Somebody dies around them on the 360th day. They got to start over.
That's a fact.
After they do this process and start over. Then when the days of the Nazirite is fulfilled overall, there's some offerings that we read here towards the end of this chapter that they will perform, bring forth to the priest. Also cut off their hair, which will be put upon the altar. And now they have completed their vow of a Nazirite. And in verse 21 it says,
This is the law of the Nazirite who voweth and of his offering unto Jehovah for his Naziriteship. Beside that for which his means suffice, according to his vow, which he vows, so he must do after the law of his Naziriteship.
So this is a vow that is very difficult to do today because you won't actually be able to complete that vow because you won't be able to do the set of offerings that are necessary to complete the vow. Now, if somebody said they want to do the vow of a Naziriteship for the rest of their life, that's on them. Because there would be a Nazirite like Samson, we read today, who's a Nazirite till his death. If somebody is going to be able to do that, that's between them and God. But you cannot say you're going to be a Nazirite for a certain amount of time because you won't be able to perform the offerings necessary today in order to complete that vow. Can a Nazirite be married? Yes. And the only uncleanness that he or she is prohibited from is being in contact with a dead body. So if he or she is married and they can be with their mate. But they're just not allowed to drink anything that will come to this. So they have to be careful. So one person could be drunk while they're doing what they're doing, and that's about it. So, because no wine or strong drink. So one person the Nazarite has to be sober all the days of his life, or her life, basically. And all the days of the Nazirite vow, yes. Of their vow. All the days of their vow, they have to be sober. So they have to pass every breathalyzer test that they ever take while they have their oath upon them. But it mentions here, once they finish, they do the offering. It specifically said they could drink wine right after that. Because the word Nazir has the connotation of both crown and abstinence within it.
Right.
Because it's a consecration that individual places upon themselves, and it specifies that consecration or that separation basically from the things because we were not living in a time where you had a lot of other fruit trees around, so people drank a lot of wine. So you're abstaining from things that a lot of people around you were drinking regularly, and doing things that people may come in contact with dead bodies, but of course being able to purify yourself. But you're abstaining from certain things during that vow of the Naziriteship. There might have been other questions online. We'll probably, time permitting, get into that. And then the next verse in this chapter goes into what is known as the priestly blessing, which is said in most congregations at the end of a service. 22.
And Jehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto Aharon and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Yisrael, ye shall say unto them, Jehovah bless thee and keep thee. Jehovah make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. So shall they put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
So it's 3 simple statements. Within each statement is simple words, but these words, once pronounced by the priests, the sons of Aaron, upon the children of Israel, God said that he will place his name upon the children of Israel and he will bless them. So to be blessed by God is the ultimate. To be blessed by God and to be kept by God is even the ultimate torah. To be blessed by God and kept by God and have his face shine upon thee is even better. Mm-hmm. To also have him to be gracious unto you is even better than that. For him to have his countenance be upon you is even better than that. And to have peace is probably the ultimate blessing of them all.
Amen.
I think we don't probably experience what actual peace is. But we can only imagine what peace is. And for Jehovah God to bless you with peace, that is definitely the ultimate. Where most of your problems are eliminated.
Right.
You'll have some bills that don't really shake up your peace too much. But to be able to pay your bills is a great thing. So you have bills that come in, but the ability to pay your bills is a blessing. To be able to go home to a peaceful house is a blessing. Where whether it's your spouse, you're not arguing with your spouse when you get home. You don't have children that are running amok and trying to take over you at home. You don't have to worry about going to the bar before going home because You could just go home in peace anyway, and you can go to work. You have to work, but to have peace at work, where if you're not the manager, your manager's peaceful with you, and things work out. Your co-workers are peaceful with you. Just to have peace is probably one of the greatest blessings ever. And once again, once the priest, the son of Aaron, pronounced these words over the children of Yisrael, Yehovah God brings this into effect. But it also comes into effect with our ways also. You can't be an evil person. The priest says these words and you're going to expect peace. That's, it's not going to work like that. And it says even in the Proverbs that those who please Yehovah, even his enemies, will be at peace with them. Meaning that you're going to have enemies. You can still have a life with enemies.
Right.
But the peace supersedes that. So once again, the blessing of peace is something that we look forward to on a daily basis. But you have to also live your life in a manner that is peaceful to others in order to receive peace for yourself and ultimately receive peace from Yehovah God coming upon you. So it works by the priest starting, pronouncing these words, which is a good thing. But we definitely want Yehovah God to bless us. And this is the commandment giving unto Aaron and his sons to pronounce these blessings unto the children of Israel. Chapter 7 is going to talk about the offerings of the princes. It's also going to go back because we started off in the first day of the second month of the second year coming out of the land of Egypt. But it's going to go back a little bit, even though it won't specifically say it, but the question is going to be asked, what day is this taking place on? Chapter 7.
And it came to pass on the day that Moshe had made an end of setting up the tabernacle, and had anointed it and sanctified it and all the furniture thereof, and the altar and all the vessels thereof, and had anointed them and sanctified them, that the princes of Yisrael, the heads of their fathers' houses, offered. These were the princes of the tribes. These are they that were over them, that were numbered. And they brought their offering before Yehovah 6 covered wagons, 12 oxen, a wagon for every 2 of the princes, and for each one an ox. And they presented them before the tabernacle. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Take it of them, that they may be to do the service of the tent of meeting, and thou shalt give them unto the Levites, to every man according to his service.
So we'll stop right there real quick. So it says, it came to pass on the day that Moses had made an end of setting up the tabernacle. What day was that? That Moses set up the tabernacle. This was mentioned earlier, by the way. In the interest of time, the first day of the first month for the second year coming out. So we came out of Egypt on the first day, on the 15th day of the first month, got to Mount Sinai in the third month of coming out of Egypt. You had third month all the way to the 12th month of receiving instructions, messing up with the molten calf, getting instruction of the tabernacle, building it. So all of that was completed. The articles were put together somewhere within the 12th month. And God said on the first day of the first month of the second year, that's when the tabernacle was set up. That's when God approved of everything. There was a 7-day procedure of anointing and consecrating the priests, as well as the tabernacle itself within those 7 days of the first day. So now, going in backtrack, we started off in the second month, we're going back to the first month, and now the priests, or the princes, are bringing their offering to help, or not really help, but due to the consecration of the tent of meeting. Continue.
And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Take it of them, that they may do to the service of the tent of meeting, and I shall give them to the Levites, to every man according to his service. And Moshe took the wagon and the oxen, and gave them unto the Levites. 2 wagons and 4 oxen he gave unto the sons of Gershon, according to their service. 4 wagons and 8 oxen he gave unto the sons of Merari, according to their service, under the hand of Itamar the son of Aaron the priest. But unto the sons of Kohath he gave none.
Stop right there. We're going to ask a question. So there were in total 6 wagons and 12 oxen that were donated by the princes to be given for the service of the tent of meeting. God had it that 2 wagons and 4 oxen, because there's going to be 2 oxen per wagon. So 2 wagons and 4 oxen were given to the family of Gershon. 4 wagons and 8 oxen were given to the family of Merari. No oxen and no wagons were given to the families of the Kohathites. And why is that? And if you read the rest of that verse where he would stop, you would get the exact answer as to why.
Because the service of the holy things belonged unto them. They bore them upon their shoulders.
So they carried the thing that we mentioned earlier, the Ark of the Covenant, the 2 altars, the menorah, the table of the showbread. They had to carry that on their shoulders, so they were not given any oxen or wagons to transport those items.
Right.
That's why in the time of King David, they were not supposed to be transporting the Ark of the Covenant
Right.
on a cart with the oxen. And when it stumbled, somebody
Uzzah
Uzzah touched the Ark by accident. Well, not really by accident. He touched it on purpose because he didn't want the Ark of the Covenant to fall, and he died by doing a good deed. So everything has to be done with organization
Right.
and structure, because when you go beyond that, even though it is a good deed, it is not always the right thing to do. Deuteronomy has the statement, do what is right and good in the sight of Jehovah God, in many verses. Both categories have to be fulfilled, good and right.
Good and right.
It's a good thing that the ark doesn't fall once again. It's a lot of good things that don't happen. That happened. The two sons of Aaron, it might have been a good thing to celebrate. They're consecrated as priests. Let's make an offering to Jehovah God. God killed them because they performed an offering that was not commanded of them.
Right.
Some things are good, but they're not always right. Some things may be right, but it's not always good. And now these men, the princes, gave their offering. So 2 oxen, once again, no, 2 wagons and 4 oxen go to Gershon, because their responsibility is to carry the tapestry, so they have a lighter burden, so they don't need as many wagons. The Merarites have these boards and all these
Pins
things,
and
and
sockets
all of these heavy things. So they might have been shook up when they first heard what they had to carry, but God made a way for them that the princes, God had just had everything fall into play. These princes just donated these wagons, so now the Merarites really don't have to I know really was said in that statement twice. The Merarites don't have to really transport these heavy things actually at all. Their responsibility is to make sure it gets into the wagons and gets to the place it's supposed to get to. Now there's a separate offering that was performed by each of the 12 princes on each day. God said, let them do it. Yeah, continue reading. Should be verse.
And he that presented his Slikat. And Yehovah said unto Moshe, they shall present their offering
Right.
each prince on his day for the dedication of the altar.
Right, so now each prince is going to give a offering, and every offering for each day is actually the same thing. But each prince is going to give an offering on their own day. And so there were 12 days of these offerings being presented by the princes, started from the first day up until the 12th day of the first month, just in time for, you said it earlier. One of y'all, I think you said it earlier. Yeah, you said it earlier. The 12th day from the first day of the first month to the 12th day of the first month, all of these things were done just in time for Pesach. A lot of these, everything, consecration of 7 days, the priest, tabernacle, everything was done. Everything was done in time for Pesach, or in time for Passover, which takes place on the 14th day at dusk, leading to the 15th day. So you had the 15th day of the first month, started the Feast of Unleavened Bread until the 21st day. Everybody enjoyed themselves in the desert. Then you prepare yourself in the second month. And also, actually, we'll save that for who's going to bring forth next week's portion. But going to the end of this chapter, let's go to this is the dedication of the altar.
84.
Should be, yeah, 84.
This was the dedication offering of the altar in the day when it was anointed at the hands of the princes of Yisrael.
So it's going to be the collection of all of the princes together. It's going to give the totals.
12 silver dishes, 12 silver basins, 12 golden pans, each silver dish weighing 130 shekels, and each basin 70. All the silver of the vessels 2,400 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. 12 golden pans, full of incense, weighing 10 shekels apiece. After the shekel of the sanctuary, all the gold of the pans 120 shekels. All the oxen for burnt offering 12 bullocks, the rams 12. The he lambs of the first year 12. And their meal offerings and the males of the goats for a sin offering 12. And all the oxen for the sacrifice of peace offerings 20 and 4 bullocks. The rams 60. The he goats 60. The he lambs of the first year 60. This was the dedication offering of the altar. After that it was anointed. And when Moshe went into the tent of meeting that he might speak with him, then he heard the voice speaking unto him from above the ark cover that was upon the ark of the testimony, from between the 2 cherubim, and he spoke unto him. Hallelujah.
So once again, that just gives the total of all the princes. I'm just going to have you go back to chapter 4, verse 17 real quick, because we skipped over something there that's also important. But also, once again, chapter 7 gives the total of what every prince gave up together. And once again, it says this is how Jehovah God communicated with Moses, that he would just go into the tent of meeting. God would speak from atop between the 2 cherubim, and he heard the voice speaking to him. And in chapter 4, verse 17, this is another point, because when it comes to the Kohathite family, because once again, they had to carry their burdens on their shoulder. And once again, this is what the priests had to do before they could take care of their burdens. Everything else, once again, with the other two families could go on the oxen. Chapter 4, verse 17.
And Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe and unto Aaron, saying, Cut ye not off the tribe of the family of the Kohathites from among the Levites, but thus do unto them, that they may live and not die when they approach unto the most holy things. Aharon and his sons shall go in, and appoint them every one to his service and to his burden. But they shall not go in to see the holy things as they are being covered, lest they die.
And that's the end of the portion of Badmibar of Numbers. And so once again, in the chapter, in the verses prior in that chapter, the priest's responsibility is to cover everything. So when the Kohathites are carrying these things, they actually never see what they're carrying. Think about it, like they never actually see the Ark of the Covenant. But they know that that thing is covered in that blue. That's what they have to cover. So everything is covered. So once again, everybody has their function. And even though the Kohathites are supposed to carry their burdens on their shoulder, they're still not actually supposed to see what they're carrying. So that puts a lot of perspective on a lot of things. But once again, we thank Jehovah God for teaching us how to be organized. These are the words that came out today. How to be structured, how to follow hierarchy, and how to follow a form of leadership, because that's how you had the princes set up, and ultimately judgment. So everybody has a responsibility in this community and in this nation overall. You just have to find your niche, and when you find your niche, just make that your niche. And don't try to follow somebody else's niche.
Right.
Let everybody do their function, but there's a function for you. So we thank the Most High God for our lives. We thank Him for strength, for good health, and the opportunity to read these words and to acquire knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and praying that we will learn from these things. And as you know, so once again, as we hear at the end of every service, those are the words that are in Numbers chapter 6, and the words that are inserted there, the Kani Hiratson or the Amen. There's reasons. This goes beyond the topic, but those words are not in the Holy Scriptures. We know that. Kani Hiratson and Amen. Those are in other texts said for specific reasons. But the priest would say that those particular words, may Jehovah bless you and keep thee, and those are the things that we hold to. So we thank Jehovah God once again for our lives. We thank you for strength and good health, praying that He will bless us on this day as we continue to move forward in our service before Him. Hallelujah.
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 Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for the life of Rabbi Chief Binyamin.